Looking for a new car or expert service? Visit Limerick Motor Centre, your main Hyundai dealer on the Ballysimon Road. A proud family business for over 30 years, we're Ireland's longest-serving Hyundai dealer. With sales, service, parts and finance all under one roof, our dedicated team delivers value, expertise and customer care you can trust. Call 061 417 141 or visit limerickmotorcentre.ie. Limerick Motor Centre, driving with you for over 30 years.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it, it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello, and you're very welcome to episode 363 of Treaty Talk. It is myself, Tom Clancy, in the hot seat as ever. Delighted to say we're here in association with Hyundai, the main Hyundai dealer in Limerick on the Ballysimon Road. So for more, check out limerickmotorcentre.ie. Matt O'Callaghan takes a small break this week, but long-time listener, first-time contributor, and another South Limerick man in the form of sports reporter Joel Slattery joins me. Joel, how's all with you? How is life?
All's good, Tom. Glad to be here and glad to have some South Limerick representation on the podcast.
Well, Matt will claim now that my Knockany allegiances make me that, but I suppose my heart may always be in Ballybrown. But yeah, great to keep the flag flying for the real southern part of Limerick anyway. Kilfinnan native that you are. Joel, we've plenty to discuss over the next hour or so. Obviously, Hurling will take front and centre. It was a good week for the Limerick hurlers. We've footballers into action. We've some Kamogi news. And then we've a squad announcement as well for the ladies footballers. So plenty, as well as schools, a bit of colleges, and whatever else will come our way. So there is no off season in the GA. I think it's fair to say, and in Gaelic games at this stage. There was a time when there was one, but definitely not now. We're in the middle of January, and it's 100 miles an hour already.
Yeah, it's been a crazy busy January, to say, between schools, Fitzgibbon, Sigerson, and hurlers and footballers, both of their first tournament of the year in the rearview mirror. So it's been all go, but no better way to have it.
Yeah, that's for sure. The National Hurling Leagues, Football Leagues, Camogie and ladies football taking centre stage more or less now for the inter-county side of things. But I suppose, as you say, in the rearview mirror now for Limerick is a piece of silverware in hurling. Fourth time that they've won the Munster Hurling League. It was Mallow on Saturday. It was Waterford, albeit a depleted Waterford panel that they faced. Limerick could be very happy with a lot of things that went right in this game, Joel. An 8-point win. It felt an awful lot more. I was at the game myself. I felt an awful lot more comfortable than that. But John Kiley got to use 26 players. No major injuries coming out of the game. You know, green shoots early in the year, and a positive feeling in the camp. It's good mood music in the middle of January.
Yeah, it's always good to get a bit of silverware, I suppose. When John Kiley eventually moves on and the book is written of his tenure as Limerick manager, a Munster Hurling League win over Waterford will barely be a footnote. It might not even get mentioned, given all they've won in the last decade or so. But good to get the win too, and as you mentioned, National League around the corner. It was a good positive performance, good attacking play as well. And you see Aidan O'Connor there, he scored 11 points. You can never have too many free takers in your team with a long season upcoming. So a lot of positives for Limerick. You mentioned Waterford were a bit depleted and Ballygunner players missing as well. But I think at this time of year, particularly these pre-season competitions, it's only really about yourself. It's only about what Limerick can do. We'll probably talk about Jimmy Lee's footballers in a while. It's all about what they could do in their two games. So definitely a lot of positives there. And as you said, we'll never say no to silverware in Limerick, given the the few decades we had leading up to 2018. So every win is to be cherished.
Yeah, I put it to John Kiley afterwards that this fixture actually fell into the calendar ideally, really. I know Limerick finished their group phase in the group of three. They didn't know, it looked actually more like that they were more likely out of the competition than still in it. And then our good friends in Cork did us a nice favour by beating Clare in Monday of last week, and they actually put Limerick into the final and scoring difference. So it kind of fell nicely for Limerick. Limerick, as John says, have 13 players playing Fitzgibbon. They were all available to him. Obviously, it had been a weekend. There wasn't much involvement for Fitzgibbon for Limerick hurlers in the days leading up to it. So he was able to go with close enough to maybe a full deck as he would like at this time of the year, and really run the rule over some of the younger players in the panel. You mentioned Aidan O'Connor. I suppose he's a firm fixture in the match day panel, as we've seen the last years. But other guys there and getting other minutes into the legs, even Cathal O'Neill coming back in playing in the forwards this time. So ideally it was another competitive outing, 60-minute game for John Kiley and co. And I'm sure he'll have plenty of food for thought after it.
And I guess too as well, Nicky Quaid got a run in the second half. So I think he might have been one of the last of the players who we were waiting to see come back to get some bit of game time in some competition this year. Even you mentioned players like who've been in the 26th the last couple of years. Donegal Dawlick had a great January. I think he's another player we'd love to see where his potential is for Limerick. He had a great National League last year, the year before. And now he's a player too who we'll want to see getting championship minutes under his belt. So definitely, as we mentioned, a lot of positives for Limerick. Again, we won't get too carried away with beating a slightly understrength Waterford side, but I guess, as you mentioned too, the way the schedule has fallen for Limerick with a bye in round one of the National League, they got their few games pretty closely together, those 3 matches. Now they have that 10 days rest or so before they go down to face Waterford again in the first round of the league. So definitely a very strong pre-season for John Kiley, and things have fallen nicely for him. And as you mentioned there with Fitzgibbon Cup, with some of the older players in the panel, they have a rest for this week, but then for other guys, they'll get more minutes under their belt too. And at this time of year, that's the most important thing, just kind of transition from the gym work to the field work, I guess. And that's where Limerick are and where they're approaching now with the National League around the corner.
Yeah, there's probably no point going blow by blow for position, but I suppose one interesting one when we saw the team announced was it on Friday evening, was Barry Murphy wearing the number 3 jersey. I tell you, there's few people in the county would have called that a number of years ago. Unfortunately for him, it didn't go to plan. I think he had a bit of tightness in maybe his hamstring or his quad or something, was withdrawn early. But interesting to see John Kiley, I suppose, trusting him there and wanting to have a look at that, because I suppose it's defensively is where Limerick have lacked real depth in the last few years, probably because of injuries that John has had to look at other options. We've seen what happened with Barry Nash around 2020 and 2021, and even Eddie Stokes then as well, playing kiley as well. There's 2 players that Doon would have played way further up the field down the years, and even in Limerick teams they would have played there. But again, John Kiley, Paul Kinnerk and co, just looking at different options. So it's very interesting dynamic developing there.
Yeah, and it's something I guess that we've seen with Limerick that they've had over the years quite a few long-term injuries in defence. Richie English, Sean Finn had a bad injury when he was in college. Mike Casey has missed time. So I guess even when Limerick won those All-Irelands, won the 4 in a row, they were down 1 or 2 players with long-term injuries every year. So I think it's definitely something where having that extra player in other positions and that flexibility too. I know I suppose Kyle Hayes is the best example of a back going into the forwards, Barry Nash a forward going into defence. And we know that I guess John Kiley has seen so much from these guys over the years, and he knows, again, other ways to use the players that maybe supporters wouldn't instinctively think, oh, let's play Barry Nash at 3, but whatever John is seeing inside, whatever Paul Kinnerk is seeing inside, they're always open to trying new things and move players around for the team.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned 2 other names there in passing, Barry Nash and Kyle Hayes, and they're 2 men who actually haven't seen the field so far this year. But I think John positively confirmed to the media afterwards that they're taking their time with Kyle, trying to get him fully up to speed. Obviously, it was a pretty severe injury that he sustained by playing for his club last season, and Barry Nash inching his way back. So if the two of them can get back on the field, it really bolster what is at John's disposal heading into the spring.
Yeah, we all know obviously the strong panel Limerick had. It was definitely a big talking point last year. Any Friday night when John Kiley named his starting 15, there was almost as much talk about numbers 16 to 26 and the players Limerick had on the bench. And that's one area where I guess maybe people outside of Limerick thought that last year they could have got back to the All-Ireland final or even winning the championship given the strength of that panel. And it's something now for this year. All those players have that extra bit of experience. Obviously the guys from John's under-21 teams, they're obviously probably all 30-31 now, but maybe some of the guys, Joe Cathal O'Neill, and from the under-20 team he would have played with, are now they're getting the more experience. And it's kind of those two, I guess, those two under-20 teams, the more recent one and the one from about a decade ago are blending together nicely.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I suppose that under-20 team you referenced, those guys are in the main are 25 years of age at some point during this year. Like, so I suppose it might be now or never for some of them to really make a mark in that green jersey. Limerick anyway, as we know, heading into a league campaign where they have 6 games starting with Waterford in what is round 2, Limerick getting the bye in week 1. Limerick actually have a bye in the first round of the championship, so already thought that, you know, Limerick would be well in their rights to go after this league. There's probably no disadvantage to get into a league final there. I think if they got to the league final, they would have 20 or 21 days then to their opening game in the Munster Championship. So probably no reason why, you know, Limerick shouldn't target results. Not to say they weren't in other years, but could really go after this. And I think given some of the influx of fresh faces, there's probably a fresh impetus in the group now with a real competition for some places, because maybe given Limerick didn't win anything last year, the challenge has to be put down to the more senior players that your place is potentially in jeopardy, because, you know, we do have guys coming in the wings, and that's surely what Limerick will want to drive through this spring campaign.
And it was a strange league last year, Tom, as well. I mean, Limerick were unbeaten against the 2 teams who ended up getting to the final, but lost to the 2 teams who got relegated. So it was definitely a tough one to figure out. And then it led to a championship, as you mentioned, where they lost the Munster final, albeit on penalties. Disappointing day on Croke Park that we all know about. So I think to maybe try and get back to that winner's enclosure, to try and get that bit more silverware, that good win last week we mentioned. But for some of these players, particularly the guys trying to really establish themselves as championship players, it is a big month or 2 for them to show that they can emulate the success of the last 5 years.
Yeah, it sure is. Limerick in the group with obviously 6 others. It's Waterford and Offaly who've come up, and then you have Kilkenny, Cork, Tipperary and Galway as the other teams. And I think Limerick, I'm pretty sure anyway, is the same as every county, 3 home and 3 away. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. It looks like the squad is in fairly rude health. As I say, we haven't seen much of Barry Nash. We haven't seen anything of Barry Nash, Kyle Hayes, or I don't believe Dermot Burns. But like that surely now presents an opportunity. We saw the Fitzgeralds of Monaleen, for example, the two younger players the other day, trying to make their mark. And, you know, like if you rewind back to 2018, there was a lot of guys who were kind of fledgling and rookie almost, and like they grabbed it with both hands. So the hope is that 2 or 3, maybe not as many as 2018, but 2 or 3 guys could suddenly sneak their way into John Kiley's thoughts come the middle of April when championship rolls around. That has to be what drives this team for this year.
And there's every opportunity for those players too, Tom. I mean, you have 6 games, as you mentioned, in the league, so there's a lot of opportunities there to try and make that jersey your own. Players might have played the last day against Waterford, might feel they're in line to start the game in Walsh Park, and then if you can get to that situation, the jersey is almost yours to lose. I know there'll be rotation, of course, over the spring, but players like the Fitzgeralds that you mentioned, some of the players who maybe are used to getting either 20 minutes at the end or as when they start the first guy off, just opportunities for them to really nail down that starting 15 place, because it is, I think, a year maybe that we might start to see a bit of, I think transition is too strong a word for this Limerick team.
Just, I suppose, a bit of change in what we come to expect. You know, I think for too often we were able to say people could name 12 or 13 of the starting 15. Potentially, by the time championship rolls around, people might be scratching their heads, might be struggling to actually second guess the management, you know.
And it's also that you're always looking for that extra 1% that they talk about, that one small change. Maybe it's Barry Murphy to the full back line. Maybe it's one of the Fitzgeralds getting a wing back slot. Any kind of small thing that can take this team to the next level. So I think there's definitely those spots definitely up for grabs. And but again, very difficult because you are competing with guys with 4 or 5 All-Ireland medals, 5, 6 Munster medals to try and take the jersey off them. That will be very difficult. But as we say, I think, as you mentioned, it might be the year that you can't just name 12 or 13 of the Limerick team a week before the game. It might be a small bit more competition for places, or a bit more coin flip choices for John Kiley and Paul Kinnock.
Yeah, that's it. Rolling into the Tipperary game last year, I don't think anyone hardly outside of the squad knew that Nicky Quaid was playing, so that'll tell you what the rest of us know. But no, it promises to be an interesting and intriguing spring for Limerick. As we say, it gets underway in Walsh Park. Is it Walsh Park? It is Walsh Park, sorry, on Sunday week, which is the 1st of February. So Limerick, same as last year, actually throwing in on the 1st of February. It was a draw on Cork 12 months ago, but they'll be hoping to go one better and get some points on the road this time around. Moving to matters slightly more local, the Junior B series in Killeedy continues. We have our Munster final pairing, and for the second year in a row, it is Limerick versus Tipperary. Silvermines will represent Tipperary, and Ballybrown will be their opposition. Joel, I know you weren't at this game, but you would have seen Ballybrown, I suppose, fortuitously in some regards, getting over the line in the Limerick County final, but seem to be going from strength to strength now. Obviously, breezed past Aina Kilnamona in the semi-final the other day, having eased over the quarter-final a week prior. So Ballybrown motoring nicely and flying the flag for Limerick quite well in this competition once again. Yeah,
if ever there was a snatch and grab win in the county final, it was Ballybrown against the Stakers a couple of months ago at this stage. But as you mentioned, going from strength to strength, obviously a great competition down in Killeedy, the Junior B. It's always a very popular one too, and a good chance for players who, obviously it's Ballybrown's second team, so a chance to maybe play at a higher level than you'd get playing most of the other second string sides in Limerick. So it's a great competition and always extremely well organised, well run. Really tough time of the year to organise anything, of course, kind of post Christmas, but no, it's a fantastic competition. And again, getting to a Munster final, great obviously for Limerick, and I guess from a broader point of view, the standard of the competitions in Limerick, even down the grades. But I guess more importantly for Ballybrown, a chance for one more piece of silverware to wrap up a great kind of 2025 for that group of players.
Yeah, and I suppose they have the luxury now as well. They're in the All-Ireland series. I think both teams are into the All-Ireland series regardless of the result. So that's a nice little backdoor ticket, at least if they are defeated. But anytime Limerick play a tip, we want to see the Limerick men coming out on top. No different from this. This is set for Sunday, the 8th of February in Killeedy, and obviously I think the Leinster final, I'm not sure, I haven't seen the fixture for that, but the Leinster final due to take place in around that day as well. I think it could be part of a double header on that day. But just as you mentioned, Junior B and the standard of it, gone are the days, Joel, where lads can just turn up and hurl away in Junior B, because we saw Kildare and Pallaskenry's exploits last year, Monleen in this competition the year before. Those sides are young teams. I know, obviously I'm from Ballybrown, I know the profile of the team. There's no lads in their mid to late 40s or any of this sort of stuff. It's all young guys. It's all fit lads who are, in Ballybrown's case, pushing for the senior side. If it's Silvermines, they're lads, I think they're Premier Intermediate in tip. Those guys are pushing to try and get on their first team. So gone are the days of maybe lads who weren't the fittest lining out at Junior B. It is a very high standard of hurling in its own right as well.
Yeah, it's very much gone towards more kind of a second string as opposed to the senior team of 10 years ago. It's more what you want your senior team to look like in 2 or 3 years. And you kind of see that even across Limerick and in the latter stages of that Junior B competition. You definitely saw kind of good young players, fellas who are kind of knocking on the door, fellas who will in 2026 expect to be playing senior hurling or intermediate hurling with their clubs. So definitely the culture of the Junior B has gone to more second string or reserve competition rather than the older fellas having a bit of crack, which If that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll
maybe that's where Junior C has come in Limerick in the last years. I know other counties have C and D, and in some of the bigger counties even E. So maybe that's where those lads will find their home. But look, water will always find its course. So maybe those lads will find the right level for them. But no, it promises to be an interesting few weeks out in Killeedy, and I believe attendance is up. And just to mention as well, Ethan Keys 5 points. I think he got a goal in the county final, Joel, that you were at. 4 points in the Munster quarter final, 5 points the last day out. So back-to-back man of the match displays, and he got the silverware to prove it as well. So one to keep an eye out for in the Munster final, among a few others for Ballybrown, it must be said, but promised to be a cracker with Silver Mines on the 8th of February. Moving back towards schools competitions, Joel, Matt was sitting in your seat last week, and he was, I suppose, pontificating about the hopes that we had for an all Limerick Munster schools final at B level, at senior colleges level. Unfortunately, neither team has progressed, that being Skullpole and SMI. I believe you were at the Skullpole game, your former, I suppose, the school you went to yourself in your day, but unfortunately they came unstuck in the Munster semi-final.
Yeah, in my days, right, if I didn't already feel like that day was a long time ago, the fact they didn't recognise the players or the students or the teachers, even though all the teachers have retired since I was there. So definitely it was disheartening from that regard. I guess
time waits for no man, Joel.
It doesn't know, but on the field they gave it a good rattle. I think they'll I think the management themselves will admit that it probably wasn't their best performance of the year. They scored 5 goals in the quarter-final win over Scariff. Couldn't really get a goal chance even to materialise here against a strong Bishopstown team too, it must be said. They had some very good players. In the end for Skullpole, like, bit of reliance on young Dennehy from Glenroe. He scored 12 of the 16 points. They only had Shane Philpott from Blackrock and young McDonald from Bree. They got 2 each. But it was just a case of again, I guess it must be said too, desperate conditions. It was cold, it was driving rain, but just I guess just not being able to put a big enough score on the board was what cost them in the end. Lost 19 points to 16. Had an attack at the end to maybe scramble a goal to get a draw, but it would have been, as you mentioned with that Junior B, it would have been a snatch and grab. I think on balance, you'd have to, even a Kilfinnan man will have to admit Bishopstown were value for the win.
Yeah, disappointing, and I know Matt had seen the level of performance in that quarter final, and it was the goals that day. And in fairness to Bishopstown, they obviously made sure the back door was shut good and tight. And if a team that has scored 5 goals in the quarter final can't find one, then that Bishopstown defence must have done their homework, must have got a lot right, to be fair to them. Not that we like praising Cork on this channel too much, but credit where it's due. SMI were in the other semi-final, and they had the challenge, I suppose, of playing Tralee, CBS, who they played in the group, and they actually beat quite well in the group. But unfortunately, it was roles reversed here, 219 to 16 points. So it's the Kerry school, who, it must be said, were playing Harty Cup last season. They're heading to that final against Bishopstown, and I suppose disappointing, because we know this is a lot of the SMI team from 12 months ago who won the All-Ireland C colleges against wasn't it Trim of Meath, so I suppose disappointing that SMI couldn't get to another Munster decider. And I suppose Tralee clearly, I talk about doing their homework. Tralee did their work and learned from day one. So credit to them for turning the tables on SMI.
Yeah, I saw Newcastle West in the preliminary quarter final against Ballincollig, and they were very good, very well drilled. Kevin O'Brien from Patrick Swell is over them, and a nice good spread of clubs across West Limerick. So very encouraging signs for them, both with last year's success, this year's team. They were one, having seen him play earlier in the year, and having not seen Tralee, admittedly, you felt that it would take a very good team to beat SMI. And obviously, Tralee coming down from Harty, they obviously are a good side. I don't think there was nobody saw them as a Kerry school going to Torna Fulla for that match. They were definitely seen as a former Harty Cup school, and obviously it's obviously where the hurlers in Kerry are going for their secondary school. And I'm sure for Kerry hurling, they'll be delighted to be in a Munster B final. And again, maybe like Matt, I too was looking forward to a potentially all Limerick final. I was trying to think, Jesus, maybe this weekend or next weekend in Kamala could be a grand day out for Kilkenny and Newcastle West, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. But two schools who had a great year. Obviously, Kilfinnan won the All-Ireland C the year before Newcastle West. So they are two schools who are both on the rise. So very good to have those to complement maybe the likes of the Ard Scullereach, who are in the heart of this year. Castle Troy are often in it. John the Baptist obviously is a good hurling school as well.
And Doon as well, yeah.
With, of course, the inter-county minor being under 17, I think that school's hurling at under 19 really has a big place to play in terms of developing the future inter-county hurlers. The Harty Cup is a better standard than inter-county minor, obviously, because they're that bit older. So to have kind of 5 or 6 Limerick schools in those top 2 competitions in Munster and winning games is definitely encouraging, and it gives maybe young lads who would have been on the fringes of Limerick teams. Kyle McCarthy for Skullpole didn't get a lot of minutes for the Limerick minors, but had a really good season by all accounts with Skullpole and was very impressive last week too. So definitely great that the lads are exposed to that level of hurling, because it is a very good standard.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose hurling through the winter, and they'd hope to bring that form then forward if they're on maybe a Limerick 19s development panel, or even if they're involved in the 20s, that they can hit the ground running. So maybe it could be a bit of a launch pad for some of these guys. I know there's a good spread of clubs, as you said, in the SMI squad. The same actually in Skullpole, and I'd say we'll be seeing plenty of these names in the years to come. At very least at club level with their first teams in a lot of cases, and certainly we'll be seeing some of them in the Green Limerick. So look, it's all is not lost. It's disappointing, but unfortunately the step up was just a little bit too far maybe for both schools on this occasion. Just to keep us moving here, Joel, we've Fitzgibbon Cup now, so we're going down from second level to third level. TUS Midwest are in action actually this evening in their final group game against NUI Galway, this evening being Wednesday. So by the time people probably hear this, there's the potential that the result may be known, but they need a mountainous win, or whatever's the word. They have a mountain to climb, I should say. They need a huge win. I don't even know the margin. It needs to be double digits or more for them to overhaul one of the teams. But I think it would be to overhaul UCD and sneak into second place. So a difficult task for them, but better news for the Limerick colleges, obviously, or Limerick universities, is that UL are more or less through already. If they win against ECU, they're into a home quarter final, and Mary will have the same task as well when they travel to ATU Galway. So I suppose UL and Mary continuing to burn that burn brightly in this competition year on year, and obviously I think UL are overwhelming favourites to win the competition, but I suppose they still have to go out there and take care of business.
Yeah, it will take a great performance from someone else to knock off that UL team, you'd imagine. They're very strong. Obviously, a huge win in the first round. I know there's a bit of talk of maybe UCC, but they are knocked over by MTU Cork in the first round as well. So it seems to be one of those years where below UL it's quite even. So maybe numbers 2 to 5 or 6, not a lot between them, and it might just be a case of, for the Mary Eyes of this world, if you can avoid UL for as long as possible and maybe try and knock them off in a one-off final, that might be the way you'd see the title going elsewhere. But you are probably grasping at straws to see anything other than a UL victory. Although if we can keep Oisin O'Farrell in the goal-scoring form he's been in for Mary Eye, if the player scores 4 goals for you, you can beat any team. So I think that's something where that'll be the aim for whoever plays UL in quarters and semi-finals.
Yeah, and I think UL are on the Cork side, if you like, so there's a possibility they could face UCC in that quarter final in UL. That's certainly at this point of discussion, that's where it looks like they're headed. But you just don't know at this time of the year. A team could put on a showstopper performance and halt this UL juggernaut, and you never know as well where an injury could be picked up on an inter-county duty as well might just deplete them. But then again, the fact that they have inter-county players on the bench will tell you how strong their panel is. But I think if UL are not to win this competition this year, I can't wait to see the performance that stops them, because I tell you, it'll take something else. I was there firsthand when they opened with a 31-point victory in round 1, and I tell you, they'll get better as the competition goes on, in my view, because some of those guys would have probably not heard much together at all. And another game or two under their belts, I think we'll start to see even more of their talent. We're waiting on Newell's fixture in the Sigerson, so I suppose we'll hold that thought for next week. I've said it to Matt. It is disappointing from a Limerick point of view. There's only 3 Limerick club players in the Sigerson competition. Zach McCarthy of Galtee Gales being one of them, Aaron Neville and Andrew Mead for our UL are the other 2, and obviously only one of those is on the Limerick football panel, which is where we go next. But the Sigerson is a great competition. It would be just, if we could get just a few more Limerick footballers involved in wherever it may be, it would be a fantastic platform. As we've seen what the Fitzgibbon does for the hurlers, it would be great for some of those footballers too.
Yeah, and I saw Zach play the UL MTU Cork match a few weeks ago in Cork, and he was very joy played from the start. Scored 2 points, 1 of 3 that was scored as well. So was definitely very impressed with him and his performance. But as you mentioned, it's disappointing. He was the only Limerick man who actually got game time, was playing against UL. Obviously, if you even look at the UL squad, they're picking from the rest of Munster. They have a lot of guys from Mayo come down to Limerick for college too. So they have a huge pick, and unfortunately that does squeeze out the local players, I guess. There's quite a few Limerick players on the LIT team for the Trench Cup, all right, but again, that's a bit of a drop off in standard compared to the Fitzgibbon, where you'd love to see a few more of your players playing.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mentioned being on the Limerick panel there. The Limerick football panel for the league has been announced. I think it's the 36-man panel. I suppose you look at the panel and you're trying to scratch your head who's missing from last year. I suppose the obvious ones, the easy ones to pick up are Josh Ryan is obviously out with his ACL. Ian Corbett has retired, and then there's a number of, I suppose, maybe short to medium term injuries, the likes of Dara O'Hagan, Dara Murray, Tyg and Dara Shikru. So if your name is Dara, you seem to be in a bit of bother injury wise. So if the three Mon Lean men and the Mungret man unfortunately missing out. But I suppose if you look at who is there, again the squad will be captained by Killian Fahey. Again, Barry Coleman is vice captain, and there's a smattering of new faces, but I suppose by and large, thankfully, Jimmy has, a fair chunk of last year's panel to still call upon, and that hasn't always been the case for Limerick. They're going up a division. You're going to need that continuity that Limerick haven't had every year. Yeah,
and what looking at that Limerick panel, I guess what was most heartening was the balance on it, where usually Division 3, Division 4 team, it's not really about those 1 or 2 injuries. It's about after number 17, 18 in the panel, there's a big drop off in quality. I don't think you have that with this Limerick panel. I think there's nobody on that list who Jimmy Lee won't be very comfortable giving game time in the National League. We probably saw in the McGrath Cup against Tip, can't play them all together. But if things start going wrong in Portlaoise on Saturday, which I don't think they will, we'll get to that soon. But I think Jimmy Lee can turn around to that bench, to that extended panel, and be comfortable bringing on anybody in Division 3 football, in Telton Cup football. Even Sam Maguire, if Limerick can get up to that level. So what's very heartening for me is everyone on that panel is well worth their place, and it's going to be very competitive. We mentioned with the hurling, it's going to be very hard to get on that 15, and if you're not that 15, it's going to be very hard to get on that 26. And I guess the hope is for Jimmy and for all of us is that as the league progresses, that competition for places within the squad will push everyone on. And obviously, with a great year in Limerick football last year, they probably won more games in 2025 than they did in the number of years before that. So it all kind of bodes well for them going from strength to strength this year.
Yeah, it does. And the stat I keep going back to is they only lost 1 game outside of Limerick last year. That was unfortunately the Telton Cup final, but they seem to travel well, and obviously they're travelling at the weekend. But just looking at the squad, like there's still an amount of experience, despite obviously the loss of I suppose the longest serving player in Ian Corbett. But you'd hope, looking at that squad, that the injuries are now behind Cormac Wolfe, who, as we know, is an outstanding defender on his day. A lot of injuries last season in championship time. Barry Coleman, he was very stop-start, but by God, when we saw him in even the Celtic Cup semi-final, we saw what that man is all about. So hopefully, clean bill of health, clean run of health for the likes of them. And even Emmett Richter, I know, struggled towards the end, as did James Naughton with a knock or two. So hopefully, those injuries can be managed as the year goes on, because the four players I mentioned there will be key for Limerick. I think if they were without the four of them at any one time, as much as they're complementing the depth that's there, you can't be without four guys, and maybe three of those are nailed on starters, and if not all four really. So you can't be without the bulk of those, especially when you've lost your goalkeeper and your number 6 from last season.
Yeah, of course, and I think there'll be in every team there's going to be those guys who are instrumental, especially with the way football's gone now. I don't think we can call them the new rules anymore with the second year of
they're
them.
just the rules.
They're just the rules at this stage. But with the way a lot of the short passing, keeping three up, there's players who get a lot of possession still. And even with those only 12 players back at the time, there's 2 or 3 guys around. They wear the half-back line numbers. I don't know what positions you'd call them sometimes, but they handle a lot of the ball, and they're extremely important, kind of both defending and building up those attacks. So definitely guys who you really won't want to be missing on any given day. But as I mentioned earlier, I think Jimmy will be very content with the squad of players he's put together.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just to mention as well that people would have been scratching their head when they see Dunmore McHale's of Galway in the form of Brendan Carr. Now, I know he's been there. So he was actually listed in the McGrath Cup first game against Tipperary, but didn't feature. He actually has connections. I believe his father is from Pallasgreen, so that's his connection to Limerick. I think the new face from Munster St. Paul's on the squad is Jack Mahan. He would have previously played Sigerson Cup with the University of Limerick. He's a Mayo, I think, is it Clare Morris in Mayo, is a Mayo native anyway. Believe he's come down here for work as well. So he's transferred, would appear, to Munster St. Paul's full-time basis, and Jimmy Lee likes the cut of him, so he's in the squad. So we'll take help from other counties where we can get it. I suppose we shouldn't be ignoring that. It is commonplace now, maybe in football. We've lads from Kerry playing in nearly every county in the country, and there's a few more besides. So why not, if they add to the group? Let's see what they're made of, and be interesting to see how those 2 new faces go as well.
And we mentioned too a few minutes ago how there's so many Mayo men going to UL under Sigerson team, so we might as well keep 1 or 2 of them for the county panel while they're at it.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I think Jack would have played with at the time that David Clifford was there, so he held his own in that team for a lot of it. It's Laois on this Saturday evening, 6 p.m. It's not the end of the world if Limerick don't get a result here, Joel, but my God, it would be a huge shot in the arm in the last few days of January to be picking up 2 points on the road. As Limerick did, I think the last time they played Laois in the league, was it maybe 3 years ago now at this stage, or could have even before, but Limerick would probably hold no fear. Laois they're an okay side, they're no world beaters, but Division 3, I suppose, is all about getting points on the board early.
Yeah, and the way the draws worked out, Limerick have 4 home games in the league this year, so if you can get an away win, all of a sudden the kind of ambition perhaps of consolidating, you can be a bit more optimistic in terms of the overall view. Of the 3 away games, I think Sligo and Wexford are the other 2. This is definitely the most winnable of the 3, I would say. And it's a good chance for them to get the campaign off to a good start. As I mentioned, if you can get an away win against Laois, then you have a few home games coming up soon as well. So a good chance to get those points on the board. And again, that momentum, we mentioned, they won a lot of games of football last year. It's not really something we associate too often with Limerick footballers. You're hoping when
did they win 10 games in all competitions? I actually had it here on my notes, lost it now, but I think it was 10 games out of 14 or something like that in the end. It was, we just unprecedented basically is what we're trying to say. Yeah,
and if that's a run, I think they can keep going, and I think they'll be delighted with the win in Páirc Uí Rinn. I was there a few weeks ago. Now they were playing 15 of Cork's maybe extended panel. I think even to say a second string, some of them mightn't be on Cork's second string, but again, like what we said with the Munster League hurling, it's all about your own performance at this time of year. And I know Jimmy Lee said there was elements of that game he wasn't happy with, but for the most part he will be. And getting the 3 goals in that game, just making sure that they didn't let a tight game slip. They got that win, and as we mentioned, just building that momentum, just getting those wins, getting Limerick football into a position where they're winning lots of matches. it probably took the hurling a few years to get used to that, where you're going into league matches and you're winning more than you lose. I think that's the place where the footballers can very much get to this year. Given that draw as well, as we said, with 4 home games, a winnable first round, as you mentioned, not the end of the world if they lose it, but if they do win, and without getting too far ahead of ourselves, you could be setting up a very productive spring.
Yeah, for sure. Now I know Down are, I suppose, one of the favourites for the division, and they're coming to Rathkeale following Saturday. So, let's maybe pick up the points in Laois and see, can we give Down a rattle, maybe a bit of a free hit in some regards. But look, I think it's exciting times for the footballers. They played some great stuff last year. I think anyone around the county who didn't really tune into the footballers, you actually missed out, because they played some great stuff under the new rules. They're one of the highest goal scoring teams in the National League. They then started adding in the 2-pointers as they learned how to negotiate those as the championship wore on. And anyone that watched the Tailteann Cup final, okay, Limerick came off second best, but you just saw how attractive football is now to watch, and Limerick embraced that. And with the coaching team they have there, I think they can potentially kick on from a style and I suppose aesthetic point as well this year, and hopefully the results will follow suit. So interesting times ahead. I'll be heading there myself on Saturday evening, and hopefully we'll be heading back down the M7 with the first win of the National Football League. Limerick back in Division 3, obviously after a 12-month absence. Just to mention at this juncture, the Knockaderry run Munster Junior B Series, it throws in this Sunday afternoon. It's a 2 p.m. start between Ballyfihan of Cork. They're a Cork City-based club against Ballynacorty of Waterford. The winners will face Knockany of Limerick. Of course, I have connections there, and the fact that I'll be playing in that Munster semi-final. But Joel, a bit like Kaleedy, I think it's 20 years now that Knockaderry are running. It's the 20th edition. I think it was 2005. This COVID struck down a couple of iterations of it, but and I know they're good friends in Castledown. Ballygrand bailed them out last couple of years with the pitch works and stuff, but Knockaderry have been tremendous ambassadors for this competition, and they've continued to, I suppose, improve it and promote it year round as it comes around, and we're back underway this Sunday.
Yeah, a great competition. It's the same as the hurling. Great chance for a lot of kind of sort of smaller clubs get their chance to play these big games. Good chance, obviously, for the Limerick teams too. We kind of, you and Matt have talked about on the podcast about Limerick teams and Munster championships, but I'm sure you'll remember Ballybrown having success.
I have the medal here somewhere. I didn't play now in the final, but I got
getting a rare win over a Kerry football team. So I was at that game myself, so I can confirm it happened. Ballybrown did beat the Kerry county champions. But,
Croman of Kerry, they're actually in it again this year. I think it's their 3rd or 4th time in it. And as in Kerry, they don't actually have Junior B per se. What they have is, I think they have the Premier Junior Championship. If you don't make it into the top 12 in that, you go into what they call the novice competition. I don't know, they don't like calling people Junior B footballers or something, but Croman kind of seem to be not quite good enough for the top level of the junior championship in Kerry, so they seem to find themselves in this competition time and again. So I think they'll have a fair say in it this year. But I think it's a great competition, and I don't know. Knockaderry started it in 2005 or 2006, I think it was, when they won the junior B themselves. So maybe they turned around and said, "Where's our Munster competition?" And it's a problem now that they seem to be stuck with forever. So, but as I said, they've really embraced it as well.
Yeah, and as you've said, Joe, a great competition, and great for the players and from all the counties who, again, like the hurling equivalent, maybe not used to playing that higher level, will rarely play teams from outside their divisions, let alone outside the county. So it's always great to try and getting to play new teams, and for not getting in a few weeks' time to play either the Cork or the Kerry champions. Joe, fantastic for them and the club as they try and build and maybe try and emulate a hand and start going up the grades, Tom.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. I know the draws are done this week, but we'll come to those in due course as the spring and summertime rolls around. But yeah, it's Knockany's first time representing Limerick in a Munster Championship in any cause, as far as I'm aware. And I think it's the same for Ballyfihan of Cork, who lost their Junior B final last year, in 24, but came back to win it in 25. So big days for these clubs. I know Clooney Quinn of Clare maybe more a hurling club, but you know what, it's a good time of year for them to be getting the lads bonding and getting the lads out and about, and instead of just hard training, getting them onto a field. So best of luck to Knockaderry in the running of the competition, and I'm sure I'll be seeing them in the next few weeks. Camogie, we have 3 finals for Limerick at the weekend. I suppose the 16A and B sides are in 16A side are in a Shield final on Saturday, and the 16B side are in a cup final on Saturday as well. But it is the minor final, I suppose, Joel, where we'll turn our attention to Limerick and Cork. Limerick and Cork and Camogie, it doesn't always come off too well for Limerick, but fantastic. We have a fantastic crop of Limerick players here who Matt, I know, has touched on so often to say they won the 16s All-Ireland A a couple of years ago. So Limerick going into this final with a real chance of bringing home silverware, and be a fantastic start to 2026 if they could do so.
Yeah, and probably coming into the All-Ireland series upcoming, Tom, is maybe the number 1 seed as those under 16 champions from 2 years ago. The squads are virtually the same, which I guess on the girls' side of things more than the boys. Player retention is such a big thing. So obviously they're doing a lot well in Limerick Camogie underage, that the players from that under 16 team kept at it and have kept playing up to minor level, and obviously the hopes they keep playing up to senior level for Limerick. But keeping those players, testament to the players and the coaches, and obviously 2 very good wins in this competition already. First round against Waterford was a complete mismatch. They were so much better than them. Very good win over Tip last week as well, or over the weekend. I know Cork had quite a big win against Clare in their semi-final. That was actually the same day as Limerick's quarter-final, so they're kind of they've been lying in wait for 2 or 3 weeks at this stage. Put up a big score against Clare, got a few soft goals before Clare got to the pace of the game, so hard to maybe get a read of where Cork are at, but they do seem to be a strong team, and it's definitely shaping up to be a very exciting final. And of course, with the Camogie, the Munster Championship is run separate to the All-Ireland, so it's not everyone is in the group stage of the All-Ireland Championship anyway, so a great chance to get some silverware and enter that competition with some real momentum, because as we said, it's a Limerick team that I know Matt talks about how great they are, but they are a really good team. But again, it'd be interesting, I guess, for me to see how the players cope, because at minor level, particularly for teams like Limerick and Camogie, you rarely have too much expectation. Whereas here's a group of young players who, on the Treaty Talk podcast, were saying, this is a good team here. So they're getting more of
but let's not beat around the bush. They are a good team, we're not. There's not any false plaudits for them. They obviously won the last time they were together as a group. They won the ultimate prize. So they know how to hurl, and they've the same management team and nearly all the same panel. So why not actually talk them up for what they are? They are a very good team, and hopefully they can prove that in Fethard at the weekend.
And I guess that's the point, is there's a bit more expectation than a Limerick minor Camogie team have ever had before. But again, great chance to win a Munster title, the added bonus of beating Cork in a final, and then, as we say, kind of building up to that All-Ireland series, which is starting, I think, in mid-February, and which is obviously the main competition for this team this year. But this will be a very good build-up to that All-Ireland series. Will be trying to get that Munster win under their belt.
Yeah, I believe Hazel Horgan that was coming in from the bench the last day and contributed healthily towards that 1-9 to 6 points victory over Tipperary. But the familiar names from this show, that Mia Smith, who we saw for Newcastle West in the senior championship last season, captained by Tara Hines of Bruff, and there's familiar names there like Anna Rose Benson from the Piersig, Caitlin Ryan, Cora Long, Abigail Buckley, Orna Barrett back from her ACL, the Knockaderry full back as well. So plenty of names there that we've become so more familiar with, even at their fledgling age. And Dermot Ryan, the Piersig man, he's the manager. Natal O'Grady, Sheila Moynihan, just names we associate so often with Gaelic games, and indeed in Camogie in a lot of situations in Limerick. So we're wishing them the best, I suppose, at the weekend. It would be great. Just to give the fixture again, it is in Fethard. I'm after losing it here. Apologies now. I I have too many screens on the go here. They're playing Cork in Fethard on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. So a big afternoon for those players. And just to mention as well, the under 16 finals, the under 16B cup final, which was between Limerick and Cork, that takes place on Saturday, also in Fethard, and 2 hours later at 5 p.m. the A Shield final will be between Limerick and Waterford. And again, I suppose those sides, I'm not going to pretend to know an awful lot about them, Joel, and I don't expect you to do either, but very much still at developmental age. There's 2 squads there, players maybe still trying to find their level, and a great opportunity for them to pick up a bit of silverware in the green of Limerick and create, a memory that I'm sure they'll cherish. So there's probably upwards of 50, 60 girls going to be representing Limerick there on Saturday, not to mind what we have then coming on Sunday. And
then with the A and the B squad as well, it kind of gives players maybe from some of the smaller clubs and gets more clubs represented. And we mentioned earlier there's obviously there tends to be quite a lot of high drop-off rate with girls' sports more so than the boys. So to get as many players as possible playing at a higher level is obviously very important. And then obviously building up there towards that club championship, and because obviously quite often Camogie clubs do rely on 15, 16, 17-year-olds to field adult teams. So to get those girls playing at a good level, playing whether even the A Shield or the B competition, play at a higher standard than they're used to, maybe a better level than some of the schools Camogie they're used to. So just important to keep them playing and keep them playing at the best level possible, because it's something that maybe Gaelic games isn't really great at, is for players who aren't quite inter-county standard, but maybe very good club players, to get maybe an in-between level. And this is the perfect opportunity for those players.
Yeah, for sure. So to keep an eye on those games. It's Cork in 2 of them and Waterford in the other over the weekend. So best wishes to all connected. Moving to ladies football, Joel, the squad has been announced. I think I have I should just to touch on the Kamogi, the fixtures. Just put them up on the screen there. And just for anyone listening, this is the senior Camogie fixtures for Limerick in the National Camogie League. Limerick in 1B once again. They have down on the Valentine's weekend. I think this is going to be a Saturday. They've down at home, Offaly away, Clare on home soil, Wexford on home soil, and Dublin away. A very competitive championship, I'd say, again in store, Joel, but thankfully Limerick have 3 home games. And look, there's counties that Limerick have beaten in the not too distant past here. They're not really in with the big heavyweights of Galway, Cork, Kilkenny, maybe Tipperary and Waterford. So opportunities hopefully for Dave Deedy, the new manager, and his charges to I suppose to start picking up a few wins and building the confidence in the group.
Yeah, and I think with Jimmy's League footballers, we kind of maybe spoke about trying to maybe keep going up the levels, but I think for the Camogie team, 2026 will be about consolidation. Had a few heavy defeats in the championship last year. If they can stay at 1B level, stay at senior level, we touched upon a few minutes ago, there's really good young players coming through in Limerick Camogie, but those minors are going to need a couple of years to get into David Deedy's senior setup. So I do think it's actually quite important that Limerick stay at least 1B, maybe even 1A if possible, stay at that senior level, because there is relegation in that senior Camogie championship. So it is, even if this year can be consolidation, beat the teams you should be beating without disrespecting some of the other counties, and then have the squad in a place where we know there's good young players coming up through the ranks, and then when they can join the senior squad, there is really a chance for Limerick Camogie to join those big hitters you mentioned earlier, but we might be 2 or 3 years away from that yet.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now I know Limerick were very close to actually making the quarterfinals of the Camogie Championship, but at the same time they were a lot of way off where the real creme de la creme are. So yeah, I think you're right. It's about incrementally improving, trying to keep the squad together. That is a real challenge that has been put on this team the last year. There's a lot of turnover of players. I suppose I always caveat that by it feels like I'm taking aim at the players for that, but there isn't the level of expenses, there isn't the level of exposure, and maybe there isn't the level of I suppose backroom assistance that is afforded to the male players. So you can understand why female players maybe give us shorter innings at intercounty, because it is a huge commitment to be travelling across this county and sometimes not being fully compensated for it. So I'm well aware of the pitfalls of it. So look, that's the Camogie. We'll come to that next month. As I said, it's what are we now, 3 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away from throwing for that, and we'll hopefully hear from Dave Deedy in the meantime about his formalised panel of players, and hopefully some familiar faces and indeed some fresh ones peppered in amongst it. Panel that is confirmed, Joel, is the ladies Gaelic football panel. I just pop it up on our screen there. I suppose again, if we're to touch on who's absent, myself and Matt discussed last week Cathy Mee's retirement. I do note that Grace and Yvonne Lee appear to be not involved in the panel this year as well. You have the like of Deborah Murphy, Karen O'Leary also absent as well. So unfortunately, I suppose if we're looking at this negatively, a lot of experience gone out the door in the last few months for the new manager whose name is escaping me now. Patrick O'Connor, sorry, the Clare native is the new ladies football manager. So it could be a testing few months ahead, and that's because of the lack of experience. I know there still is some there, of course, but there's just a lot of players have left the panel this year.
Yeah, I think the ladies football team seem to be kind of in that maybe a more exaggerated version of what the men, balancing between Division 3 and Division 4, kind of up and down, not really always able to get that bit of stability and kind of stay 1 or 2 steps up the ladder. I think more so than the Camogie that we spoke about, they are needing to consolidate. It's definitely important for this ladies team it's maybe a bit more of a reset of a year with Cathy Mee's retirement as well. Kind of a big opportunity though for some of those other players to step into more of a leadership role. Like, we know that there's good footballers there, but at senior and to county level, you'd need that bit extra, that bit of leadership, players to step up. You mentioned the travelling that gets done with some of the at inter-county level. Is it Roscommon they're playing in the first round away from home? It's a big commitment. It's they're long bus journeys to play probably in front of a small crowd, and it can be a tough slog sometimes at Division 3 and Division 4. So that's definitely something we'll be looking out for with this Limerick team this year, is maybe filling that leadership void that the likes of Cathy Mee, who would have been soldiering the players on for the last decade or so, can someone kind of jump into that role for the team? Because as we've seen over the years, Limerick are always good for a few big championship wins in the ladies football, but it's just about maybe getting setting themselves up to give themselves the best opportunity to get those wins.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know Rebecca DeLee is also absent from that list there, and there's definitely more I'm forgetting, and it's certainly not my intent to do that. But I suppose it's the absentee of Mona Gare, one of the leading sides in the county, and there's just a lack of Mona Gare representation, which probably doesn't augur well overall that you've one of your main club teams that isn't really at this point isn't fully contributing to the squad they would have in previous years. So look, that's the challenge that lies in store. But look, a good spread of talent there nonetheless. I know I see there the likes of Anya Ryan of Munger, a good leader for her own club. So hopefully she can carry that into the county team. So look, it will be a testing spring, I feel, for the ladies involved. But the surprises at times last year, they weren't a million miles away from league, the knockout stages of the league. A result here or there could have swung it for them. So hopefully they can do something similar in this season's league, and we'll revisit it then as it comes along for championship. But the new manager has I have a feeling his work cut out. But look, we should remain optimistic here on Treaty Talk as we tend to do. So we should do so. Joel, I think we're probably through most of what we're doing. It's was it you said Roscommon? It was Laois, sorry, in their first ladies football game, their first round, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And Roscommon away.
Roscommon away, sorry. And then Laois. Oh, I skipped the fixture. Sorry. Yeah. They're like the men, they're heading to Laois, but
there's a home game against Antrim in the first half of the competition as well.
Yeah, I noticed ladies football have this bizarre rule where it's the home away whenever you last met, as far as unless they've changed it now. But if you could I think Tipperary there one year ended up with 6 home games because it's basically the reverse of the last time we played that county, which is bizarre in its own right. So you can get complete imbalance of fixtures, but I think Limericks are some bit okay from my glance at them earlier. Okay, I think that's where the clock is beating us. I know I've a Fitzgibbon game to go to, so at this point. But Joel, it's been great to catch up. I'm sure we'll be seeing you at a game or two across the county in the not too distant future. Hopefully, if it's the Green of Limerick, they're celebrating success. But we will try to stay impartial in our reporting duties as always. But we do like to fly that green flag where possible. So thanks a million for stepping in for Matt this week, and I'm sure we'll be chatting to you throughout 2026, Joel.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers.